Okay. Ooh. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Morgan Shayloween. Let me also turn my air down. Hey guys, welcome to Morgan Shayloween. Move, baby. Where every night until Halloween, we are going to talk about a true crime case. And tonight, we're talking about one that I'm deeply invested in. And while we do so, we're going to eat dinner. I did already take my lashes off from the day. So keep that in mind. I also may not be wearing makeup in all of these episodes, so keep that in mind as well. Also, I know someone's going to ask where these earrings are from. These are from Laurie's brand, Minimum LA. They are super good, and if you have sensitive ears, these are going to be really good options for you. But we're going to eat dinner together tonight. This is a place in the really small town I live in East Tennessee. This is the Old Town Grill. I have a house salad. And then I also have this right here, which is a baked potato with steak tips that we're gonna have together tonight. Yum, yum. And like I mentioned, we're gonna talk about a case that you guys is been consuming me. Hey, babe. He's outside. Hold on, I gotta go get a fork and a knife because they decided not to give me one. Just love when they do that. Move, babies. Excuse me. Thank you, my love. Anyways, let's get into it. So, this case, I got it. This case, I started to become obsessed with and really investigating when I first heard the main details of it. So let's get into it. So, Laurie Shaver, Michael Shaver, they are this married couple. Aw, thank you. Hi, Noah. Married couple, they live in Florida, they have children. Michael works for Disney. So, do you know it like Epcot at Disney in Florida? They have the tandem or whatever that goes around. We're not dealing with none of this shit. Nope, 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 nope. They have the tandem that goes around the parks, and that was his job. He was like, he had a really, really, really great job. Like, great job. And so they had been married for many years. Laurie, she worked from home. She worked, I believe, for like a medical company of some kind. I wasn't able to get like the actual details of it because some sources say that it was like an insurance type company. Some sources say that it was like medical insurance. Regardless, she was able to work from home. And according to Laurie at court later, she would kind of say that her and Michael split several times. She would move back up north. He would come and find her, so on and so forth. However, the family says different, and we'll get to that. But in 2015, Michael's best friend calls a wellness check to the city in Florida where he and Laurie lived, Michael and Laurie lived, and said, hey, I need you to go check on my best friend because I haven't seen him in 3 years. I'm going to give you guys a minute to digest that while I cut up my salad because I was thinking the same shit when I heard this. I'm like, wait. So number one, it's the best friend who reports him missing, not a mother, not a brother or a sister or even an aunt, uncle, grandparent. No, it was his best friend. And keep in mind, for the past 3 years, Michael's Facebook was still active. He was responding to Facebook messages. He was still making posts. But the pictures that he was posting were the same pictures that he had been posting for the years prior. Also, just because of who Laurie is, I'm going to go ahead and state now, everything that I say is alleged. Also, everything that I'm sharing is public information. The trial was also public, aside from where Laurie's daughter, teenage daughter, testified, which we'll get into in a little bit. Everything is public knowledge and public record. But this video is for educational and, educational and entertainment purposes. So everything is alleged, whatever, it's all public. Laurie, do not get bored and sue me. I have nothing that you would want. I can go ahead and tell you just by off of your style. Anyways, so the best friend calls the police and they're like, hey, can you go and check on my best friend? Because I've talked to him on Facebook, but I have not physically seen this man in 3 years. So can you go and just take a check? Just see. So the police do just that. And before they do, they also find out from someone that Michael used to work with that allegedly there are rumors that Michael is buried in the backyard underneath the concrete fire pit that was put in the backyard, just so happens to be allegedly put in the backyard on the very last day Michael was seen alive by the neighbor. I know. So, police go out there. They ask Laurie, when's the last time you seen him? She said about 3 years ago. Okay, has he tried to contact his children at least? No, haven't seen him. A black car, such and such he used to work with, came and picked him up, and I haven't seen him since. Apparently he was going to Georgia. Off the rip, police already knew that this was weird. Like, you have these children and you don't contact them at all for 3 years. You don't reach out, you just vanish. Also, Michael quit his job via text. And his boss would later say that that was not like Michael at all. It was weird to begin with. The boss even text back to confirm that he was sure, is this Michael? Are you sure this is what you want to do? This man had a really great job at Disney. He literally was the diesel mechanic for the monorail at Disney. That's a really good, can you imagine how much that shit pays? Anyways, the boss never heard another word. The only conversations that would come from Michael after that date would be on Facebook. However, Michael's phone was active for a period of time after that. He would text people back, he would not answer the phone. It would only be text conversations. So the police questioned Laurie about this, and she said, well, I don't know, maybe he just wants to conversate on Facebook. I don't know. I haven't reached out to him. And they're like, okay, well, do you mind if we take a look around? And she's like, sure. Sure, of course. Yeah, go ahead. Knock your ass out. Go ahead and search my property. And then the police asked her flat out, is Michael buried in your backyard underneath the fire pit? She's like, of course not. That's crazy. Of course he's not buried back there. And the officer's like, okay, sure. Of course, would you mind if we have our cadaver dogs outside? Go ahead and just take a walk around. Because the police had already noticed around the concrete slab, they could tell there was evidence of a shallow grave being underneath. They could also tell that there had been a new layer of concrete poured over top. So if you don't know, if you pour concrete over a grave, that's emptiness underneath, right? That moisture rises up and it lifts the concrete and it causes this like grayish yellowish stain to come around the dirt. And that's what the police were seeing. She says as soon as they ask about the cadaver dog, she says, I want a lawyer. This is absurd. You're not searching around my fire pit. I want an attorney. So of course to the police, this is a big red flag. Because if I don't have my husband buried in the backyard and I'm trying to prove that I'm innocent and he really did just disappear out of thin air, I'm like, absolutely, go search. In the meantime, police interview the only neighbor that Michael and Laurie had. And she informs police not long before Michael disappeared, Laurie and Michael had gotten into an altercation. And Laurie had allegedly beaten him up very badly, and he came over her house because he wanted to leave. And Laurie had allegedly taken the kids, gotten the keys, and was trying to leave with the children very intoxicated, which caused Michael to literally beg her, like, please do not leave with the kids. Like, I'll leave, don't you leave, especially with the kids, like you're drunk. And she allegedly made some statements about unaliving herself and the kids, like all these things. And the neighbor vouched for all of this. She gave all this information up and also had taken pictures of Michael on the night that all of this happened and shared this with the detectives. And this is what led the detectives to then go to the courthouse and ask for a warrant to search and pull that concrete up and search and underneath the fire pit. Within just a couple of days, they did dig up the fire pit, and at this point, Laurie had lawyered up, and they found the remains of Michael Shaver. Also, what they found was him to be in underwear. They found him in shorts. He had no shirt on, and he did have socks. That was it. Also, he was wrapped in a fitted sheet from Kohl's, which just by searching through the house, police already knew that Laurie was a frequent shopper at Kohl's. They found numerous receipts and bags, shopping bags that she had kept from Kohl's all throughout the house. And so immediately they started to search of when these fitted sheets were purchased. However, undetermined, but what police eventually allegedly agree on is that these sheets are just some sheets that she had purchased to have in the home. And based off of the events that happened on the day that Michael disappeared, she just grabbed some sheets out of the closet and wrapped him into it. Hey girlie, how are you? Hey Crystal, I'm doing good. How are you? So, moving forward, at this point, the remains are found, right? Laurie is arrested for murder and is put on a $500,000 bond, and she is bonded out for $50,000. So she does place this bond. And in the meantime, she's talking to detectives about all of the times that she allegedly left Michael, accused Michael of allegedly being abusive to her. The children seeing this abuse, remember that. That's going to be important here in just a minute. And if you haven't heard of this case, stay tuned. If you have, do not ruin it for people in the comments, because people who haven't heard of this, you're going to be blown. So, during investigation, keep in mind, this whole time, Laurie is out. And Laurie decides to post a video onto social media. The lawyer that approved this, like, number one, like, if your client is being accused of a crime like this, like, allegedly unaliving your spouse and burying them in the backyard while your children are home, allegedly, probably not the best idea to then go and make a video and post it to Facebook about how I did not do this, I am innocent, this man just up and left us, and how he ended up in my backyard, I have no idea. I don't know. He just showed up there, you know. Whoever unalived him, they must have just decided to bury him in his own backyard and also pour concrete for a fire pit that just randomly showed up in my backyard one day. But hey, that happens to everybody, right? What the hell? So, during this whole time span, police are investigating. And this is when they realized Michael's phone was paid for a while. Not only that, Michael's 401k cashed. With Disney, yeah, it was cashed. Not only that, but Michael's credit cards were maxed out, babe. Completely maxed out. Way after the date that police think that he was last alive, based off of neighbors and people last seeing him alive. Because there is a date for that. Keep in mind, at this point, Laurie is still sticking to the story that the last time she seen Michael was on this date in 2012. Someone picked him up in a black car. She gave them the name. Police end up reaching out to this man. He's like, that is absolutely not true. I never drove him to Georgia. That is false. Why would he not take his own car? Keep in mind, Michael's car was still in Laurie's care until it got repossessed because she quit making payments on it. However, she wasn't clever enough to stop using the credit card. She continued to use it until it was completely maxed out, and for the last few $1,000s, she went ahead and just withdrew it. And if you don't know anything about credit cards or you don't have one, when you withdraw cash, typically credit cards give you a penalty. And Michael had not rose all of these charges just for the cash withdrawal, but he had like stacked up all of these fees. And so his car ends up getting repossessed. His cards eventually run out of funds, and that is when they would stop being used. Much later, after the last time that Michael Shaver was seen alive. Now, this is the other weird thing that police looked at. If you, as his wife, know that someone came and got him and took him to Georgia, why would you not file for child support for the 4 children you all have together? How is it that you would just be able to afford them on your own with the way that the economy has fluctuated so much, especially during that time? Why would you not file for child support? Also, if he hadn't reached out to you at all, why wouldn't you at least be like, is he okay? He left in this random black car with this random co-worker. Is he alive? Is he okay? But no. Laurie never filed for child support in those 3 years. Never filed for divorce. And also in that time period, she got remarried. You may be asking yourself, Morgan, how in the world did she get remarried if she's still married to Michael Shaver? She never filed for divorce. No. Interestingly enough, though, the new husband, he testifies on Laurie's defense at court. Stay tuned for that. So, after this, Laurie is trying to make her defense. Prosecutors are coming up with all this evidence of the credit card use and Michael's car being repossessed, Michael having someone drive him to Georgia instead of just taking his own vehicle, allegedly. Michael's remains being found in the back fucking yard, like all of these things. And all of a sudden, a bombshell hits in the prosecutor's office. The DA gets a phone call that the defense is changing the entire motive. because at this point, they are now saying that Laurie is now covering everything up, and her 14-year-old daughter, do the math there, how old was she been 3 years prior? Okay. Is now coming and saying that she did it. Now listen, I don't care if my child did do it. I would never allow my child to go up and say that they had done it. Ever. I would be like, shut your mouth. I did it. Period. But no. And also, this is just all bullshit, and you'll see later what the jury believes. This is all bullshit. This child had nothing to do with it, and if allegedly Laurie coerced her teenage daughter to go up and come up with this whole thing that didn't make any sense. She was questioned several times, and bits and pieces, bits and bobs changed over and over again, which obviously is going to come into effect if you aren't telling the truth. Also, we're talking about a young child, right? Who's been questioned by people that she does not know. She's also allegedly witnessed a very traumatic event at a young age, because Michael was found with numerous bang wounds in the back of the head front of the head, which isn't going to align with what Laurie's underage daughter says, which again, I'm going to keep her name out because it's not important. None of this was found to be true. The evidence did not align. And furthermore, they didn't share her testimony, obviously, because she is underage, that you can just hear her voice. But you can look up the testimony. I do believe they also have her voice altered as well. And all you see the entire time is the back of Laurie's head. And I just want to say, just by watching the back of Laurie and her hand movements while her daughter's talking, I feel it's very telling. Like, very, very telling. So if you can, go watch that whole testimony of her daughter, because it says a lot. But basically, the teenage daughter goes to the defense and says, this is actually what happened. My mom didn't do this. I did this. Also, she calls him Michael, which I find very weird, but says, Michael attacked my mom again, and I defended my mother. So I decided to go and get the gun in my YouTube. Go get the bang out of my parents' room, and I banged him in the back of his head. I don't know exactly where it hit, but I know once I banged him, he fell. After all of that, Mom's boyfriend. So here is a side note. Laurie allegedly was having an affair on Michael. Now, Laurie says that this is all alleged, but she's saying that Michael knew that this relationship existed, and that is what pissed him off. Others and detectives and this boyfriend says that everything ended prior to this. Not only that, but when this other man ended things, Laurie decided, because this other man was married, you guys, Laurie decides to send his wife flowers to her job. Now, where do you think his wife worked? Are you done guessing? Okay. At an elementary school. She worked in the office. And you know, like when you get flowers delivered to work, everybody's like, oh my gosh, what, and there's a note. Everybody's like, oh my God, what does the note say? Blah, blah, blah. She reads the note, and it says, roses are red, violets are blue. My wife is a whore, and your husband is too. Please respond to my Facebook message, Michael Shaver, end quote. So, of course, This man's wife goes to Facebook, and there are alleged messages from Michael reaching out to this woman saying, hey, you know, my wife and your husband are having an affair, blase, blase. However, these messages allegedly were sent after Michael was no longer with us and after this other man had ended the relationship. The wife ends up having a conversation with her husband, and they decide that, you know what, we just need to nip this in the butt. This is what it is. But the wife has a weird feeling and calls the police. This is another time when the police would go to the Shavers and Michael was not there, and they walked away before the best friend ended up reporting him missing just a couple of years later. Who knows? Would have Michael still been alive? We don't know. I also find it very weird that his family, like his mom, dad, nobody, like, reported him missing. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say at the max. Yeah. With my mom or my siblings, the max, I'm not going to get a Facebook message. Like, if I can't call you and talk to you on the phone, I'm reporting you missing. I do not give a shit. Like, the fact that his best friend reported him missing and not his family, that just all seems super, super weird to me. I don't know. That's just all weird. But anyways, the daughter, going back to her scenario, is that the other man ended up coming over and helping them dig the hole in the backyard, bury Michael, and pour the concrete slab. And he also said, you all need to go and do something else. I will handle all of this. So according to the teenage daughter, is that the other man did all of the other stuff, and Laurie and the daughter, the daughter went to school, Laurie went and ran errands, shopped, and did whatever, and then came home. That's a bunch of horse shit, allegedly. I mean, based off the date that they gave, which does correspond, according to the medical examiners, of the date that Michael allegedly was unalived. How would that kid be able to go to school? I'm sorry, like, I just do not see that. And neither did the jury. Nobody bought this shit. And mostly everybody felt bad for the teenager because it's obvious that either the defense allegedly or Laurie allegedly talked this young girl into going up on stand and basically taking blame for this heinous crime and unaliving her father. Like, that's crazy, but nonetheless, and I do feel like in the future this daughter is going to come forward and is going to say, you know, I did not do this. Like, I did this because I was trying to help my mom or save my mom, or God forbid, I really hope not. I really hope Laurie did not talk her into this. But just based off of everything that we've seen in the trial and how manipulative and narcissistic Laurie Shaver is, it would not surprise me if this was not all her plan and she did go to her daughter and ask for her to do this, allegedly. Because in Florida, as well as 99.9% of all other states, children who commit these crimes, especially allegedly, the daughter is saying that this was all out of self-defense. Those crimes are going to get a lot less of a sentence. But if it truly were that, and if it truly were self-defense, why would you just not call the police and say, he attacked me, unless you didn't have all those marks and things that you stated, because there were no picture evidence of Laurie having any marks or scrapes or bruising or anything ever. There was never any pictures taken. Ever, never, never. So eventually Laurie decides to testify. And when I tell you that if you watch her testimony, it's going to be the biggest waste of an hour of your life. She just goes on and on about things that are irrelevant, that do not matter. And you can truly tell that the defense is trying to gain sympathy of the jury of things that there are quite literally no evidence of ever happening. And she goes on for a long bit about how at some point in their marriage, after having their first child, she moves back up north with her family, and she's doing so good. She worked for MetLife. It just hit me. She ends up getting her job back at she gets a job at MetLife, and she gets her own apartment. And her and the first child, the one that allegedly helped with everything, they're doing great. They're doing great. And she talks about how the relationship between Michael and his family, she says it was complicated. It wasn't the same as my family. He didn't get the same type of respect from his side of the family as me. My family was more willing to help. His, not so much. And she just goes on this tangent about her mother being there one day, helping watch their daughter. And she gets in the shower, and when she comes out, she's just soccer punched in the face by Michael, allegedly. And he forces her to come back to Florida. And I don't know, she just goes on and on and on. And the things that she talks about are just really, really bizarre. It's if you watch it, I would skip to like the half point mark and watch it till the end, because the first part is literally her just talking about how her and Michael met in school, and she brings up a lot of things that just were turned out to not be true at all, like calling Michael an outcast and not smart and all these things. He literally was a pilot. Like, she just goes on about things that are just factually cannot be true. Her testimony was absolutely terrible. Then they have the testimony of Wilma, and to flash back to when I talked about the neighbor that helped Michael when Laurie tried to leave with the kids drunk and beat Michael up, literally. She goes on stand, and they're like, what did you think about her? And she said, she's nuts. She's crazy. She absolutely did beat him up that night. Those are pictures that I took of him. I told him I need to take pictures of all of this. She said it wasn't long after that, we never seen him again. Her testimony you should watch, because it is very telling and very interesting, to say the least. She also was allegedly home on the alleged last day that Michael was alive. And she has some interesting things to say about that. She also has some very interesting things to say about when the fire pit was dug. And she also says that there was no man helping, that it was Laurie. Very interesting. After that, not very long deliberation, jury comes back and they find Laurie guilty of murder. They also find her guilty of tampering with evidence. She's also guilty of a lot of different financial fraud situations with his credit card and all kinds of things, and is sentenced to prison. And I just have a lot of thoughts on this one because number one, you would now have your teenage daughter involved in this. And if she did not do this, people are going to question that for the rest of her life. Because you now have had her stand up on a stand and testify that she committed these murders or committed this murder, allegedly. Whether or not she did it, she went up there and she said she did. So to colleges, to future jobs, if they look any of this shit up, they're going to see that. And we live in the 21st century where, listen, babe, everybody looks you up now. Everybody. And if they look her up, which they will, and they see this, which they will if they look her up, they're going to see her on stand as a young teenager testifying, saying that she committed a gruesome act of unaliving her father. Like, it's like she didn't care though. Like, if you watch the daughter's testimony or if you watch Laurie's testimony, it's all about Laurie. It's all about her. It's not about her daughter. It's not about anybody else. It's not about the ex. Nobody. She literally does not care about a single person but herself. I mean, just like her getting jealous that the boyfriend did go back to his wife, which of course he did, and her sending the flowers saying, roses are red, like acting like she was Michael, when Michael wasn't even alive anymore. And she sends these flowers to this woman and says, roses are red, violets are blue, my wife's a whore, and so are you, and your husband is too, all this shit. So I'm curious to know what your all's thoughts are on this, because this one had me spent. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. This one had me intrigued, and just wait until tomorrow's case we're gonna talk about, because it's even crazier. So be sure to stay tuned for Morgan Shayloween Day 2 tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there, be square. Thanks for you guys for joining me. Let me know your all's thoughts and opinions and comments on the Laurie Shaver case in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.